Hello everyone and welcome to the free and live ACL Manager Webinar hosted by CloudAccess.net. The ACL Manager is an extension that will help you simplify Joomla access control lists. It will help you easily manage the permissions of Joomla websites with the clickable permissions grid. This is an award-winning extension and we are an award-winning hosting company. My name is Ryan Bernstein. I'll be your host for today's presentation. Sander Porcher is your presenter. He'll be joining us in just a few minutes. Joomla has an advanced permission system called Access Control List, or ACL, and it's a great way to define groups with their own set of permissions. Unfortunately, the core Joomla ACL system can be difficult to comprehend, and that's where the ACL Manager comes in. It's available in 28 languages, and the ACL Manager features tools to help users easily understand and manage users, user groups, permissions, and access levels. In this one-hour webinar, Sander's going to discuss, first off, core Joomla ACL functionality. He's going to cover the core and then move on to the ACL Manager clickable permissions grid. He's going to discuss a built-in diagnostic tool that can help you fix your assets table, and he'll also discuss the ACL Manager's ability to support any component. Now, at the bottom of the slide, you see some contact information. If you'd like to tweet at me during the presentation, you can do so, or send me an email, webinars@cloudaccess.net, or visit our site. We are the host of the demo trial of Joomla at demo.joomla.org, and you can launch free, unlimited trials of Joomla. Each trial is active for 30 days, and you can play around with Joomla, learn Joomla, using our free resources. Now, if you want to send me a question on Twitter, you can do that, or feel free to find your GoToMeeting slide-out question area. Post a question to Sander. He's agreed to stick around after the presentation to answer a few questions about ACL Manager and perhaps core Joomla ACL functionality. But you can also let us know where you're attending from. Sander is attending from Amsterdam, and I am in northern Michigan in the U.S. And a little bit about Sander. He is the developer of the ACL Manager extension. He is the owner of Sander Porcher web design at www.sanderporcher.net, and he is a member of the Joomla leadership team, a co-founder of the Dutch Joomla user group, and a co-founder of Joomla Days Netherlands. He's very, very active in the Joomla community, and it's a pleasure to have him do a webinar with us, and we're appreciative of that. Hey, Sander, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. We're definitely excited to have you. We're going to go ahead and pass the presentation over to Sander here now, but I just want to remind you that I am recording this, and a copy of it will be available later today on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/cloudaccess, where you can review this information and view a lot of other training resources there as well. I'm going to go ahead and pass this to Sander now.
Okay, perfect. So thanks all for joining this webinar about Joomla ACL and ACL Manager. I first would like to start off with some basic explanations about Joomla ACL before digging into ACL Manager to make sure everybody understands the ACL structure of Joomla that's been introduced in Joomla 1.6. So in front of me I have a default Joomla 2.5 installation with no sample data installed. And I'm going to log in to this website. And I think we all know this screen. And I first like to start off with showing you several areas that are related to the Joomla ACL system. The Joomla ACL stands for Access Control List, and you can find it in several areas in the Joomla administration. So first of all, let's have a look at the user manager. I have now one user, myself, and when I open the profile, we can now see the assigned user groups on the bottom panel. And you can select one user group, but you can also select several user groups if you want. And that's a big difference with Joomla 1.5. For the ones that use that Joomla 1.5 version, they know that you could only select one user group instead of several. So you can now assign to a user to several user groups. So that's part one. Then we of course have the user groups. And again, in Joomla 1.5, we had a kind of structure that was pretty similar to the one over here. But the big difference is that we can now really fully define our own user group and even rename it and change the ordering. So when I just change the name, it will be visible. When I want to change the position of the user group in the user group structure, I can change the parent group and save it. So you can fully define your own user groups. You can create new ones. And later on I will do a demonstration about how you can set up a structure, and I will show you more about it. But it's very good to note that you can create and define your own user groups now. The other area of the Joomla ACL system is the viewing access levels. And also that's something that we saw in Joomla 1.5, but again in 2.5 and 3.0, and besides everything I show and tell about Joomla 2.5 is similar for the 3.1 version at the moment. So you can use the same information as well in Joomla 3. When you open an access level, you see which user groups are part of this access level. And it's good to know over here that once you assign the manager rename in this case, the administrator group that is nested will also inherit this value. So actually this will be the same, but by checkbox the manager rename, the administrator group will be included in access level as well. The access level are used for several areas in Joomla. It's for selecting the menu items who can be able to view it, for content, for categories, for modules. So you see them all around in Joomla. And it's basically controlling who is able to view what on your website. So it's mainly the view action. And Joomla is kind of two different ACL systems into one website, and the view part, the access control levels, are one part of it. The other part, and that's the most important part of today, is in the global configuration, the permissions. And with the permissions, you can really control which group is able to do what in your Joomla website. So that allows you to really set up a custom access to your backend or to your or to your front end of your website with only the areas visible that you would like to see for user group. As we can see, we have several actions over here, and let's quickly walk through them to explain what those actions are. The site login action allows you to define which user group is able to log in on the front end of your website. So that's front end only. Then we have the admin login. That allows you to define who's able to log in into the backend of your website. Blind access. That means once you turn off your website, when you turn the website offline, so in offline mode, there's always a login form visible for people to log in, mainly for your webmaster yourself, so you can check out things. With the offline access action, you can define which group is able to log in at that time. The super admin group is an interesting action, because once you allow this action over here, that means that the user group will turn into a kind of a super admin group. So it will not look to any other ACL setting around your website anymore. You will be able to perform any action on the entire website. So basically you see in Joomla that this super admin action is only allowed for the super user group, where you can see that the super admin is set to allowed. So those are some more general actions. And then we have an action that's called the access administration interface. And it basically means that you can define which user group is able to access a component. So you can set this action per component as well. And once you allow this action, a user group is able to access certain components. Then we have 5 actions that are related to managing the content, categories, articles on your website, for example. That's a create, which group is able to create articles, categories, etc. Delete, which group is able to delete content, edit, which group is able to edit the content, edit state, that means which group is able to change the state of a category or an article, and the state means that you can publish it, unpublish it, feature it, unfeature it. So that's mainly the publish information around that. And the last one is edit own, and that means that the creator of an article, for example, can edit his own article. So those are the default actions in Joomla. I will show you later on that extensions can add their own additional actions to this list, but the Joomla core has this 10 default actions available. For those actions, we have several settings available. For the public user group, which is always the parent of all other user groups, there are 3 actions available: not set, allowed, and denied. Joomla works in a way that from a top-down inheriting system. So once you allow something, all nested groups will inherit that setting, but also all nested levels. And I will go into that level details later on. But it basically means that once I now allow create action for the global configuration, where I am right now, you will be able to create everywhere within the website. So also in the article manager, in the web links component, etc. Not set means not allowed in basic. There's nothing set yet, and you will only be able to perform a certain action once you set it to allowed. So as long as you don't change it to allowed, a user group will not be able to perform that action. That's something very important to keep in mind. I also really suggest that you simply keep the public user group like this, or not set, because when you change the settings over here, it will limit your flexibility with the nested user groups. So when I look at the manager user group, you can see that some settings are changed. For example, the site login is changed to allowed. And the calculated setting over here is showing what the result of that change is for this user group. So this user group is allowed to log in on a website. When I would leave it to inherit and save it for now, you will see that the calculated setting is changed into not allowed. So the site login setting is inherited from the public user group, which is not set. So I can change it into allowed. And save it again, and now the calculated setting is again allowed. Another option is the denied setting, and the denied is a very maybe nasty one, but keep in mind that you really use that only in cases you really need it. For example, I can change this into denied, the site login, and save it, and then the calculated setting will be not allowed. But it also means that the nested administrator group inherits that setting and is also not allowed. And once you set denied, you can't change that anymore to allowed for a nested user group or level. So when I show, you can change it over here, but once I save it, it will result in a conflict as listed over here, because you can't allow a denied setting anymore. So it's better to return it to inherit. And once you simply do not want this user group to be able to log in on your website, change it to inherit, because you haven't allowed it yet, and that means also not allowed. But then you can change it to allowed for the nested user group. So that I'll show a good example later on why you need to prevent to use the denied action as long as possible. As I explained before, they're kind of, I define them like 4 different levels in Joomla where you can configure the permissions. We are now here in the global configuration where we can configure the permissions for the entire website. But you can also define it for the second level, and that's, for example, the component option. So when I go to the article manager, there's an option button, and this is the same for every component in the Joomla backend. And when you click on the options, a window will show up with all options for the article manager, but one of them is the permission type. And over here you can see that the same actions are available as well, besides the site login, the admin login, and the offline access. Those actions are related to the entire website and not specific to the article manager. So you can't set those actions in the article manager. But in this case, we would be able to, for example, only allow to the article manager when it's set it to allow. So this is kind of the second level in Joomla. The third level is a category. So when I open that one, there's a set permission button as well, and that basically scrolls you to the bottom of the page where you can see the permissions again. And once again, we have several actions available, but the access administration interface and configure action are not available anymore for the category because those are related to an entire component and not to one specific category within a component. So we only have to create, delete, edit, edit state, and edit own action left. So that's the third level. And then the last level is the fourth level. And I don't have an article right now, so I will quickly create one. And again, there's a set permission button that we see already on the bottom of my screen. There are set for an article itself. We can set the delete, edit, edit state permissions. We can't set the edit own and the create action because when you are in an article, you can't create a new article. So that's only valid for categories. So those are the kind of actions that are available in Joomla, but you will see them all around. When you go to the banner components, there's an option button. With the permission tab. And the same is for web links with options and a permission tab. And the same for the categories within the web link component, the permissions. So you can see them all around, and it might not always be easy to really understand which actions are where. But that will be where ACL Manager comes in, and I will show that you in a moment. To make it even more understandable how the Joomla ACL system works, I will set up an example of an ACL structure for a website. And in my example, I am going to set up the ACL system for a school, for a very small school. The school has 3 classes, class A, class B, class C, and has students and teachers. And what I basically want to set up is that those students can log in on the front end of the website and create articles for their own class category. So each class has their own kind of blog page with blog posts from that specific class. So they should only be able to create those articles in their own class category. The teachers, they should be able to log in into the backend of the website and able to publish the submitted articles. So once a student submits an article, it's not directly visible. No, the teachers have to log in first and publish it, review and publish it, and then it's become visible on the website. So to set up that structure, I will first create, for that I go to the group, and over here you see the default Joomla groups that are available. What I do in the first place, most of the times, is delete all Joomla user groups available except the public group, that should stay there, and the super user group because I'm part of it. But all other groups are mainly there for the legacy of Joomla. So when you migrate your website from Joomla 1.5 to 2.5, you still have the same group structure. But it often confuses people a lot. So I really suggest to simply delete the default Joomla user groups so you can start with your own fresh structure. So I now delete them, and I have to do it in 2 batches. So I now only have the public and super user group left. Now I'm going to create new groups. And the first group is students. And I make that nested from the parent group public. because when I would select the super user, this group would inherit everything from the super user, and the super user group can do anything, and we don't want the students to be able to do anything. So save and new, and I create a group for each class, so we can really assign a user, a student, to a specific class in here. And I make the group parent of it student. And I will do the same for class B and class C. So I now have the public group with a nested group students and a group for each class. I will now do the same for the teachers. I make that from the public, save and new, and one for each group, save and new. And if you have any questions, just let them know in the question tab of your GoToWebinar control panel, and I'm happy to answer them directly or later on, depends on the question. Okay, so we now have the structure set up with the students and the teacher area. And I split them to allow flexibility when I'm going to set the permissions. I will show you later on. Okay, so we have the group set up, and I'm now going to set up access levels, viewing access levels. So I basically want a viewing level that you can set up a menu item that's only visible for students and all teachers as well. So we select the students, and it automatically inherits the nested classes. I want myself as a super user to be able to see the content for the students, but I also want that the teachers of the students can and I save a new, and I create another one that's called teachers, and I only want that the webmasters of the website and the teachers are able to see this content. So I select the super user, the administrator of the website, and the teachers. And this time I don't select the students, because otherwise the students will be able to view the teacher content. So I now have the levels set up. The next step is to create the 3 class categories where the students can post their blog posting. So class A, save and new, class B, save and new, and class C, save and close. So I now have the 3 categories set up. My front end of my website is still empty, and I'm going to create menu items for each class blog and a menu item where students, after they log in, are able to submit their articles. So for that, I'm going to the menu manager, to the main menu, create a new menu item from the category block type, class A again, and select the class A category. I'm going to do the same for the other classes. Category. And the last menu item I'm going to create is to create article menu item. Submit blog posts. And on the right side, we have a couple options available there. We can set a specific category if we want by selecting the default category to yes and then choose the category. But in our case, we don't want to define it in the menu item, because we want that the menu item is a kind of smart. So when a student of class A logs in, he will only be able to post in the category A. When a student of class B logs in, he will only be able to post in the category B. And Otherwise, I have to create 3 menu items for each class 1, but now I simply set it to no, and the system will now look at the ACL settings for the create block, and I will show you in a minute. So save and close it. When I now look at the front end, I have a couple options: the blog pages and the submit blog post. And actually this menu item, I don't want it visible to the public. So I go back again, open the menu item, and set the access to students, the access level I just created. Save and close. And now the menu item is not visible anymore. So I have basically set up my structure right now. I've created a couple groups, access levels, categories, and menus. And I'm now going to create a couple test users to be able to check if I set up the ACL correctly. So I go to the user manager, and I have a teacher A. That's a teacher of class A, and the login name is teacher A. And this is a teacher of class A. So I select that user group, create a new group, and now I do the same for the student. So for student A, and this student is in a class A. So I again sign, but this time for the student class. Save and close it. So I have myself as a super administrator in this window, a student A and teacher A. And what I often do when I'm going to test ACL with several users, I open a new browser, and not a new browser tab, but really a new browser. So in this example, I'm using the Chrome browser, and I'm going to open Safari browser as well. And that's allow me to really test the setting in a good way without messing up with the session data, so I don't have to log in, log out all the time. So when I refresh this same page over here, I see the menu items. Okay, let's see if the student is able to log in. Student A with the password. You cannot access the private section of this website. And that is, of course, correct, because I didn't set any permissions. So I go back to my administration panel, go to the global configuration, go to the permission tab, and I'm going to check for the student group. And as we can see, we see the new group structure over here. And I want all students to be able to log in on the front end of the website. So I set a site login to allowed. And instead of doing the same for each class, I just do it for the parent group. And that also explains why I'm using the student as a parent group and then add the several classes. That gives me a lot of flexibility when assigning to several areas. So I now set the student to log into allowed, and let's see what the result of that action is that the calculated setting is allowed for the student group, but also the nested group of the classes is inherited and set to allowed as well. When I look at the teachers, it's still not allowed because I didn't change any settings yet. So when I try again, I should be able to log in on the website. And that's indeed correct. So I'm now logged in, see the menu, and then I also see the submit blog post menu item. Let's see if that works already. No, that isn't working. The reason for that is that I didn't allow this student to create articles in any category yet. So I go back to the backend of my website, go to the category manager, open up class A, and in this category, only the students of class A are able to create new content. So I set the create action to allowed, save it, and the calculated setting is now allowed. As you can see, the other classes are still not set. So when I now return to my front end as a student, I can see the submit article layout. And when I look over here, the category is only class A. So automatically, the student is forced to publish his blog post in this category. When I would allow another class, no, I'm not going to show that right now. So the student is able to create content over here. So let's try it. Demo of blog post student A with some content, and I'm going to save it. The article is successfully submitted, is the message. So when I now go to the class A, it is not visible yet, and that's correct because I didn't allow, when I go back to the control panel of this category, the edit state action for the class A. So the student is only able to create it, but not able to publish it. For that, I want the teachers to be able to log in the backend of my website and publish that content. So I go back to my test window, go to the backend. I have to log out for a second over here. And I'm going to try to log in as a teacher. And you do not have access to the administration section of the website. And again, this is a very valid message, as I didn't allow the admin access for the teachers yet. So I go to the global configuration of my website, to the permission tab, and set the admin login for the teachers to allowed, and I also want them to be able to log in on the front end. So I also allow the site login. When I now save it, I see that the calculated setting is allowed for login. So go back to my student dashboard, to my teacher, and try to log in again. And I was able to log into the backend of my website, but I don't see that much. I see the title of the website, but no menu, no control panel. I can only log out basically. And the reason for that is that the backend consists out of modules. And by default in Joomla, all modules have an access viewing level assigned to special. So as long as I don't assign, when I go to my control panel, and go to the, let's see, go to the access levels, sorry, there is a group that's called special. And when I open that group right now, I see that the teacher are not part of this access viewing level. So to be able to see the backend menu, like the modules like the title, the menu, I have to assign this group to this access level as well. And special is not always the best words for that, so I mainly rename this access level to backend because it makes it more clear what this special level is about. It's about accessing the backend. So when I now save and close that, the teacher should be able to see it. So I go back to the teacher panel and refresh it. But still, it's not possible to see it. The reason for that is that when you change the access level settings of a user group, you really have to log out and log in again to be able to see the changes. For the other changes in the permission system, it's not needed to log out and log in again, but for changes to the access level, you have to log out and log in again. So I'm now able to log in as a teacher. And this is what I'm wanting to see. I see the control panel of my backend with the site information, And I often get this question when supporting for ACL Manager, how can I remove that help menu? And I will quickly show that. That's also a module. So when I go to the module manager, select the filter to administrator, there is the admin menu module. When I open that up, there's on the right hand side in the advanced options, there's an option help menu, and I set it to hide. Save and close this. And when I now go back to my teacher, the help menu is not visible anymore. I can do the same basically for these other modules on the back end, but that's up to you. So the teacher is now able to log in, but needs to be able to access the article manager. Otherwise, the teacher cannot approve the newly created articles. So I go back to my super user account, go to the article manager, go to the options button, the permission tab, and I want all teachers, so I select the teacher main group and not a specific group beside it, to be able to access this article manager. So I set the access administrator interface to allowed and save and close it. Go back to my student panel, to my teacher panel, refresh the backend of my teacher, and I now see that the article manager and the category manager showed up in the control panel and the menu with the article manager, category manager, and featured articles as well. So I'm now able to go to the article manager. And I indeed see the demo blog post posted by the student, but I cannot publish it and I cannot create any new articles as well. So I want this teacher is able to approve this article for only the class A. So I go back to my backend, to my administrator, go to the categories, open the class A, and go to the class A group, so the teachers from class A, and I want them to be able to create, to delete, to edit, edit state, and edit own. Save and close that. Go back to the teacher backhand, refresh the website, and I'm now be able to create new content, but I'm also able to click on the title right now, change the class into publish, and I save and close it. And the state is now published. So when I now go back to the front end of my website as a student, I should be able to see this article. And that's correct indeed. This is my demo blog post. So that's basically working pretty well now. When you also want the student to be able to edit his own article afterwards, I have to change one setting, the edit own, for the students of class A. So go back to my backend, go back to the class A category, and actually it's I'm going to show that in ACL Manager, and change the class A student group and set it to edit own, save it, and the calculated setting is now allowed. And then now, when I now refresh the front of the website, there's an edit icon, and I can edit my submitted article as a student. So this is a kind of example of how you can set up the ACL system in Joomla. And you might have noticed that it can be a bit complicated with all those different screens where you set up those permissions. So to make that more easier, I created ACL Manager, and I'm going to install that extension right now to show you why it's making managing ACL easier for you. So go to and again, if you have any questions, just type them in the GoToWebinar chat, and I'm happy to answer them afterwards. So, installed ACL Manager, and that's now visible in the backend of the website. And I will first start off with a quick demonstration about the features of ACL Manager. As you can see, this is the control panel. And from the control panel, you see an overview of all your user groups on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, the users of your website. And as you can see, this is matching the groups and users I just created. You can click on a group title to open the group. And you can see an overview of all your permissions in one screen. So you can see the global configuration permissions, but also from all your components, categories, and articles as well. You can change the filtering to show everything. It makes it sometimes a bit easier. I can also filter that the articles, so for example over here, and in the small sites not that much an issue of the articles being visible, but in bigger websites makes it sometimes easier, and set it to no. And they can also set the categories to no, so only all components are visible. You also notice that in the overview you can see the actions with the gray icons. Those are the actions you can set for a user group. So I can simply change the actions and let's see, and save it if you want. I'm not going to do it right now, otherwise my settings of this group are going to be lost. Another useful option is when you just want to see the actions for the article manager, for example, you filter on the article and you see the 4 levels of the article manager. So the global configuration row, the article manager itself, the categories, and of course the items below that. When you make a mistake or when you have set up your entire structure which you would like to change it, there's an option to reset it. And when you click the reset button, you have 2 options. You are able to revert the permissions, and that's in case when you're using the default Joomla user groups, you can revert the default Joomla ACL permissions for a group. The other option is clear permissions, and when you click that button, all settings for this group will be removed, and so you can start over with configure the permissions for this specific group. Of course, there's a print overview, so you can easily print the permissions when you're going to explode. Now my printer is showing up, but if you want to explain actions to your client or just want to print it overview. So that's basically the groups. I'm going to close this now. For the users, it's the same. So when I click on a student, I can see all permissions for this user. And for the users, you cannot set permissions in Joomla, so you cannot click on the icons over here. It's just showing the combined actions for this specific user. Because when you assign this user to several user groups, all permission settings are going to be combined into one setting overview. And these kind of overviews make it very easy to see what in the end a user is able to do on the website and what not. So we can clearly see that this student A is able to log in on the website, in a class A category able to create content and edit his own content. That's basically the only thing this user can do on this website. Okay, so that's one part of it, managing the permissions, of course. Another important feature is the diagnostic tab of ACL Manager. And the diagnostic tool is very powerful for websites that are migrated or having issues with the Joomla assets table. Quite often with migrations of website, the wrong settings are stored. And I'm going to get my database quickly to show you what can happen. So when I look at the assets table of this website, this is where all permissions are stored. You see often that migrations are messing up with the settings. So you get wrong values for the content, the parent is wrong, the level is wrong, and that's not something what we want on a website. It can cause a major it can slow you down your website a lot. So you really want to have it correctly, and also otherwise the permissions might not work correctly. So when you have a migrated website, and also this is a default Joomla installation going with issues, and it will be the same for the really typical default Joomla installation, you will always notice that there are quite a lot of asset issues, more than you would expect. So I'm going to refresh this window, and the mistakes I just made by manual in the database, I'm going to move it again, are visible as asset issue. So we see that this class A has a parent ID in the database of 23, which should be 8. And we see some levels that are wrong, and some rule sets that are missing, or some rule sets that are not complete. You can easily fix those with one single click on a button, and that's fix the database with a click. And ACL Manager is able to detect for orphan assets, so that means that there is an asset in the assets table, but no related content like a category or article anymore. It's checking for missing assets, so there isn't a category or article, but no asset in the database. For issues, what we just saw with the wrong values of the parent ID or level. And the last one is for admin access conflicts, and that will be very powerful for can you remember a bit ago I set up the backend access. I go back to that one, go to the access level, and I forgot to add the teacher to the backend group. So the teacher was able to log into the backend but not able to see anything. ACL Manager is also detecting for that issue. So it now detects you have a group which has backend access, but is not assigned to the group that is used for showing the menu. So you can simply fix that with a click as well. Of course, there's an update function, so you can easily update Joomla. When I release a new version of ACL Manager, you can easily update to a new version. Another thing which is really useful, and I said it already before, is that extension. I'm now quickly going to install 2 extensions. That's Akiba Backup. I think many of you use Akiba Backup. And Zoo by UTeam. And I have to go to Akiba Backup for a quick. So I now have Akiba Backup installed and Zoo installed. And as I explained earlier, and I will simply open one of my user groups, reset the filtering in ACL Manager, extensions can add their own additional actions. And right now, there are no actions available for Akiba Backup and Zoo. So I first have to go to the Diagnostic tab of ACL Manager, and it's detecting that there are no rules set, but needs a kind of default set for both extensions. Fix those issues. Go back to the control panel of ACL Manager, open a student group, scroll down, and then I can see that Akiba Backup has additional actions, and ACL Manager has that as well. But for Akiba Backup, you can, for example, say, okay, this group is able to access the backend, able to backup. So let's not do this for the student group, but let's set it up for the teacher group. So the teachers, and it might not be the best idea to allow teachers backend access to your backups, but for now it's a good example. So when I allow them to access Akiba Backup in the backend, save it, go to the backend, my teacher. I only have site and content right now. Refresh the website. I now see the component menu with Akiba Backup and able to access Akiba Backup as a teacher. But once I click on the Backup Now button, I'm not authorized to view this resource. And that's because I didn't allow the Backup Now action of Akiba Backup that's added on top of the default Joomla actions. So when I now allow it, go back to the teacher, Akiba Backup, click on the Backup Now, and allow it to access. So the additional actions can really vary between the components. So for example, in ACL Manager you can define who's able to access the diagnostic tab, yes or not. And Akiba has 3 of them, but there are several other extensions that are making use of this to really restrict access within a component to an area. Another downside, a downside of Joomla ACL is that a lot of extensions didn't implement Joomla ACL at all. And Zoo is an example of those extensions. That basically means that you cannot set the permissions for that component. So where all components, like Akiba, have their option button with the permissions, Zoo in this example doesn't have that option button. So you're basically not able to deny or allow access to this specific Zoo component. But it can be very useful when you have a user group which access to the backend only be able to access Zoo and not anything else of your settings. So in ACL Manager I kind of added that feature, and that's visible with this icon in front of a row. That means the permission support is added via ACL Manager, and you're now able to allow access to Zoo components for, in this case, the teacher group. So when I now save it, go back to the teacher group, refresh the website, Zoo is now visible in the component menu. Although if without ACL Manager it would not be possible to really restrict access to just Zoo. Okay, so that's basically the features of ACL Manager. And let me revert this really quickly. I now go back to the teacher of class A, and it's really easy to see when I click the article that this teacher is able to log in on a site. Those settings are inherited, and you can easily see that because of the green background, which means allowed, really specific for this user group, or just a green tick, that means that it's inherited. And inherited means from the level above, so from the articles, or from the parent group. The great thing of Joomla ACL is that once you really set this up in a way like this, that you can be really flexible. So, for example, when I have this class A group, and I have a teacher of class B, and I haven't set up the permissions yet, I can set them up over here and do the same for class C. Save and close. And the nice thing is that once we now, so I now have the groups with access to create, edit, delete everything category of their class. But on schools you see quite often that teachers do have multiple classes. So when I open teacher, it's not just teacher A, it's also from C. I just select the class C over here, save and close it. And when I now go back to ACL Manager, check the permissions for teacher A and C, I can easily see that this teacher is able to log in on a site, on the admin, and able to access the article manager in the backend, and is able to create, edit, delete, edit, save, edit, own for the class A category, and the articles in there, and the C. So this teacher should now be able to go to the article manager, create a new article, and announcement class C, and select these two classes with some content, save and close. You can of course publish it as well. You can go now to the front end, it will be visible in the class C. So this allows a lot of flexibility to assigned groups. So rather than create a new group for a teacher that might be able to teach in class A and C, I simply assign that user to several groups. And then the combined settings of those groups will be making the final permissions for this user. This also explains why when we would allow over here, but really say, okay, you're not able to do this for the other classes, and change it to denied, which basically is the same because a gray circle means the same as the red one. It's not allowed. You really have to allow something. And so this is for the class A. When I will do the same for class C, for the class A, you see it's inherited now. Save and close it. And remember I said in the beginning that denied always win. I now have set up for one group allowed for the one category and the other denied, and the other way around. So the downside of that is that this teacher is not able to do anything anymore because denied always win. So therefore really try to prevent the use, don't use the denied as long as possible, and be flexible in the way you set up your group structure. Think about it in front before really going to configure your permissions of your website. Now change it back. So with ACL Manager, you're really easy to demo group. When you create a new group, ACL Manager, open a group, and you can easily say, okay, this new group is able to log in on the site, on the backend of the website, is able to access the banner component, the module manager, the article manager, is able to create content all around in the website except for the, let's say, the article. And you save and close it, and again the admin access conflict is saying you're making some mistakes. So this is the new group I created with backend access. Now going to create a new user. So and the demo, save and close it. Going to try it out in a different as a teacher. Going to log in with my demo. And I now have customized backend access set up for this user with only access to the banners, to the module manager, and article manager. So that's basically the things I want to explain right now during this webinar. I think the hour is about running out, so I suggest it's maybe time for some questions. And let's see, I'll go to this window.
Yeah, great job, Sander.
You can find more information about ACL Manager on ACLManager.net. The website is also available in several languages to make it easy for you. You can subscribe for a year access, and a year access includes ACL Manager for using it on an unlimited number of sites, so you can install it as many times as you want. And you have access to new versions and downloads for a year. You get support for a year with ticket support, and I often try to answer the questions pretty quickly, and I think I succeed in that. And if you use the coupon code webinar today and tomorrow, you get a discount of €5 on your subscription. So coupon code webinar gives you 20% discount on a year subscription or 6-month subscription on ACL Manager. I'm working on a new version of ACL Manager, and let's do a very quick demonstration about that. ACL Manager Beta. One of the cool new features in there is that you will be able to it will add some new additional features on top of the Joomla core. So you're now able to, when I go to my demo group again, not only say was able to access the articles, and right now you can be, when you allow access, also create, I installed a new version already, so it's already restricting, but normally you're able to create categories as well. You really now have to allow access to the category manager to be able to create new, split it up in allowing access to the articles or just the category manager. Another cool thing is that I get that request quite often. You only see the articles you're able to edit. So in this case, my demo user group is not able to edit the created articles by the students because I didn't allow it yet. But when I would allow it, so I go change some settings. So this is my demo group. I allow them to edit the articles of class A. And remember, I also created the C article, but then I just remember allow the class A, save it, go to my other window, refresh. You only see the class A. Normally in Joomla you will see all articles, but you can only edit and click on the ones you're allowed to edit. In this case, it hides all those other articles. Another feature will be that you're now only able to set the permissions for the entire module manager, but in the new version you will also be able to set the permission for specific modules. So you can really allow access to one specific module. I think it's now really time for some questions. So Ryan, I'm not sure if there are any questions about.
Yeah, we've had several. You did a fantastic job. Frank commented that Sander rocks a very clear, organized, and concise presentation. I agree with you, Frank. Frank commented that he'll definitely use the ACL Manager and that it makes something that could be very complicated seem very simple. I was chatting with a few of our attendees during the presentation, and they're interested to know why you chose to illustrate using 2.5 instead of 3.0, and I told them that the extension's ready for 3.0 and that it's the functionality is very, very similar between the two versions, but you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, sure. I simply installed 2.5, but I do also have the Joomla 3 version available for the, let's see. It's over here. So I could basically do the exact same webinar in Joomla 3, but because Joomla 3 is not the long-term version yet, and most of you would most likely use the 2.5 version at the moment, I choose for the 2.5 version. Also because the 3.x version is likely to be changed in the next month, so I'm not sure if the things I'm showing today is still valid in like 2 months from now. So therefore I choose to use Joomla 2.5 for this demonstration. But as of today, everything I showed today is exactly the same possible in Joomla 3.
Right, and it's just a different user interface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sometimes on a different position, but in the end it's exactly the same regards to ACL. There's one small new feature in Joomla 3, and that's that there is by default a guest access level. So you can say, for example, this menu item is only viewable for guests. So once you log in, the menu item is no longer visible anymore.
Very good. And you know, I like this question from Paul, and it's kind of basically an observation, but Paul says, the ACL Manager extension is only configuring ACL for already established groups and users. We can't create new users or groups through the extension. And I commented back to Paul that that seems to be correct, right?
Yeah, at the moment, and ACL Manager is using the entire Joomla ACL system, so it's not creating a new kind of ACL system on top of Joomla. No, it's really using the Joomla ACL system that is available in Joomla, but in a different way that makes it much more easier to manage your permissions. And it's indeed correct that you cannot create new user groups from the panel, but that will be one of the new features as well in the new version, that you can simply click on a new button in this group overview, and then you basically go to the group, to the new group window, because that will be the same.
Wow, so in upcoming versions, you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, there will be a kind of short link from over here from create a new group, create a new user, and from there you can create those new users and new user groups.
Very good. Richard posted a question very early on, and he wrote, does the component permissions override the global permissions for the group, or do the global permissions override the component permissions? I would say it's more of an integration between the two, but
no, the Joomla ACL system is a top-down permission system. So that basically means that the component settings override the global configuration settings. So, for example, let's see, I can show that in the demonstration from a demo user. When I would allow the create action, let's revert this entirely, clear the permissions. So when I allow the create action in a global configuration for a group, you directly see the result. All levels, all components below, and all categories and articles inherit that setting. You can override it for components, but you can only deny it in that case. So, for example, for the banner component, that's kind of second level. I can deny this setting, and you directly see that the category in the banner component inherits that denied setting. And this lock icon means that you cannot change it. And that's what I explained with denied will always win. So once you set denied for a parent level, for a parent use group, you cannot change it to allow it anymore.
All right. Richard, you posted a few questions. Let me know if that helped you. I think you were more talking out loud about what you realized about the extension as Sandra presented. Sarah wrote a question. It's kind of interesting too. My goal is to have certain menu items only accessible to registered users. However, I want the menu item to be visible to the public. Once the public person clicks on the locked item, it would prompt them to log in, and then if they were registered, they could get to the page. Is this possible?
Yes, that is possible in Joomla. And can I show that quickly? Yeah, let me try. So I have my site and I'm going to change the article. What a nice feature. Let me install ACL Manager, the normal version. Okay, so I have this, my students, adding a read more button. Going to add some content. There's a nice feature in Joomla that allows you to, when you now look at this blog post, there's a read more button. I now can click on that. But what I can do as well, change this blog post and change the access to registered. Save and close it. When I now go back to the front end, click on the class A, it says no article. But what Sarah basically wants is that you can change to make it kind of visible. And I now have to really look quickly where this option is. Show unauthorized links. And when I change it to yes, save and close it, I now refresh the website. And I see that article again, which I changed to access level registered. And also, to make it more clear, I shouldn't be able to visit it. But this changed the kind of registered to read more. So when I click on this, I have to log in. Or when I'm already logged in, I can directly go to the article. And I think that's basically what Sarah is asking for.
All right, Sarah, let us know if that answers your question. Sarah also commented that She appreciated the demo using 2.5 because that's the platform that she's using currently. She says, great job. Luca posted a question. Only a few more questions here, Sandra. I know you're a busy guy. It's getting towards the
No problem.
Evening and afternoon there for you in Amsterdam. But Luca posted a question. If the group is larger than one student, is there a possibility to insert a list instead of inserting all names individually? This might have to be changed regularly, let us say each year. So can you import entire lists of users from an outside resource?
Yeah, by default that is not possible in Joomla. You cannot batch import users. But I guess, I haven't used it, but I guess there is some batch import users Joomla extension around. Yeah, user import and export. So there are several, or actually two, and I think you have to check out these kind of extensions. Most often they allow you to, for example, have an Excel sheet with your users, emails, etc., and really import that in once into your Joomla website. So that's basically a kind of bit not really related to ACL, more with the user manager. And when you have an extension that allows you to import, export users, you can do that.
Excellent. Excellent. Luca emailed me that question overnight, and so I'm glad there's some type of solution. Teresa comments that she's looking forward to the new feature of blocking articles not able to access since our website is very large. That's good. Alan writes, great webinar, good extension. Andrew comments that the ACL Manager certainly makes it less complicated. If I had known about this before I created a very convoluted default Joomla setup on a site, I certainly would have used it. Sarah responded that yes, you answered your question, brilliant. And Paul says this guy is awesome. I agree. You're a very good presenter.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining this webinar.
Yeah, very good presenter. I'm going to steal the screen back from you because we don't have any more questions except Alan would like to know where to find the recording. So I'm going to point that out in just a moment. But one last time, Sandra, would you mind showing us how to get the extension and how to use your coupon code you created?
So when you go to ACL Manager.net, you go to the subscribe page and you type in the webinar coupon code, webinar. So that's visible over here. You get €5 of 20% discount, so that means with a yearly subscription you get €5 discount on the subscription, and that's valid today and tomorrow.
Excellent, very good. I'm going to steal the screen back from you now, and everyone should be able to see my screen now. This is our YouTube channel. This is youtube.com/CloudAccess. This is where you'll be able to locate a recording of this webinar later today. It takes a few hours to archive to my computer, but if I scroll down here to the special Joomla Webinars playlist, you'll be able to log in and it will appear in this list. We have over 5,000 YouTube subscribers, and every time I upload a new video, you're going to be able to receive notification that a new webinar is available. I also want to encourage you to check out Sander's web design company at sanderporcher.nl. I think I gave you the wrong link earlier. It's sanderporcher.nl. And you can also check out the ACL Manager extension, of course, by visiting the extensions directory and just searching for it. Frank is following up saying, great job, Bernie. You could sure pick them. Yeah, absolutely. James says, well-organized presentation. Thanks. And Christian says, thank you. So, Sander, thanks for doing this with us. It was an honor and a privilege. We hope that we can.
It was a pleasure to do, so yeah. Thank you.
Hopefully we can attract you back to do another one in the future if you have another release coming out soon. But good luck with all you're working on with the Joomla community, and thanks for all your hard work. And folks, thanks for attending. Good luck developing your Joomla site, and we hope to see you in a webinar very soon. Take care, everybody.